You ever have one of those days where everything just fits too perfectly? Like the universe is setting the table for a 5-course meal of betrayal, and you're the main course? Yeah, that was me last Thursday. I walked into the house after work, tie loosened, mind halfway on the leftovers in the fridge when I noticed the table was set. And I don't mean the usual lazy forks on napkins deal. I mean candles, wine, a centerpiece, cloth napkins folded like swans. My wife, Tessa, stood in the kitchen, her lipstick fresh and her dress whispering more effort than usual. She turned, flashing the practiced smile. "You're home early." That was the first red flag. I'm never early. She knows this. I'm punctual like taxes and heartbreak. "Meeting got canceled," I replied, loosening my collar. "What's the occasion?" She gestured to the table like it was the grand unveiling of a new car. "I just wanted to do something nice." Let me be clear, I'm not the suspicious type. I believe in loyalty and people doing right when no one's watching. But Tessa's nice didn't usually come with Merlot and medium rare sirloin unless there was a guilt appetizer on the menu. Still, I played along. I sat. We ate. She made small talk. A little too small. Asked about the office. Laughed a bit too hard at my joke about my coworkers to pay sliding off in a rainstorm. I cut into the steak, chewed slowly, and glanced across the table. "This is good," I said. "Almost makes me think something's wrong." She blinked, smile faltering. "Wrong? Why would you say that?" "Because," I said, sipping my wine, "you only cook steak when you need forgiveness, or when your mother's visiting. And she's allergic to sincerity." Tessa laughed, too high-pitched, too forced, and stood up to refill her glass. Her hand shook just slightly. And that's when I knew. Something was coming. Not a confession. No, that'd be too easy. It was the calm before the storm, the hush before the lights go out and the truth flickers into view like a broken projector. I didn't know it yet, but in 3 days, I'd find a single text message that would snap the spine of our marriage clean in two. But for now, I ate the steak. I listened to her talk about redecorating the guest room. I nodded in all the right places. And in the back of my mind, a tiny voice whispered what I refused to say out loud. Something's off. Something's really, really off. I woke up the next morning with that same unease clinging to me like the smell of cheap perfume. You know the kind fades fast, but never fast enough. Tessa was already up. The sound of the shower running, the faint scent of her vanilla shampoo, routine, predictable. Except I noticed something. The guest room door was cracked open. Now, we never use the guest room. No guests. No room. It's basically a holding cell for winter coats, mystery chargers, and broken lamps we swear we'll fix one day. But the bed was made. Fresh sheets. No dust. A bottle of cologne on the nightstand. Definitely not mine. It was the kind of scent you'd expect to smell in a Miami nightclub, not in my suburban guest room. I didn't touch anything. I just stared, piecing it together like a bad jigsaw puzzle missing the edge pieces. Later that afternoon, I brought it up, casual, like I wasn't walking a tightrope over a canyon of paranoia. "Hey," I said, stirring my coffee while she scrolled through her phone. "Did you clean the guest room?" She didn't even look up. "Yeah. Thought we might have visitors soon." "Anyone I know?" "No. Just maybe my cousin. From Phoenix." Tessa doesn't have a cousin in Phoenix. She barely has a cousin in general. Her family tree is more of a shrub. And that lie? That lie came too easily. But I didn't call her out. Not yet. I let her sit with her phone and her lie and her coffee, while I stared at the steam rising from mine like it could spell out the truth if I looked hard enough. Later, when she went for a run, her new hobby since January, despite hating exercise her entire adult life, I checked the guest room again. That cologne bottle? Gone. Sheets? Replaced. Window? Slightly open. Like someone needed an escape route. I stood there, arms crossed, staring at the bed like it owed me an apology. And for the first time since that steak dinner, I didn't feel uneasy. I felt ready. Something was coming, all right. And when it did, I'd be watching, eyes open, gloves off. I didn't go digging for the truth. I didn't have to. It slid right into my life like an uninvited guest at a family barbecue, bold, shameless, and reeking of cologne. It happened on a Sunday. Tessa was in the shower. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. Normally, I wouldn't look twice. But something in me, some old, buried instinct, told me to glance. Just once. Can't stop thinking about last night. Still smell you on my sheets. I stared at the screen, blinking like maybe the words would unscramble themselves into something innocent. Like a grocery list. Or a dentist reminder. Then came the second message. Next time, Leave a button undone. I want a reason to rip it. That's when my fingers went cold. I didn't open the thread. Didn't need to. The name on the screen said it all. Mason. Mason was her colleague. The same guy she said was annoying. Too intense. A little too flirty. Apparently, not too flirty. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd shared anniversary dinners and tax season breakdowns. The same table where, 2 nights ago, we ate steak like nothing was rotting beneath the surface. Tessa came downstairs minutes later, towel in her hair, humming like she hadn't just detonated my entire marriage in 160 characters or less. She stopped when she saw me. "You okay?" she asked. I held up the phone. "Mason says hi." Her face went pale. Not the kind of pale you get from fear. The kind you get from realization. From knowing the mask just fell off mid-performance. She didn't deny it. Didn't cry. Didn't beg. She just pulled out a chair and sat across from me. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "Oh, well thank you, Tessa, for thinking I deserved a better betrayal. Maybe engraved?" I leaned back in the chair and looked her in the eye. "How long?" She swallowed. "A few months." I nodded slowly. "You used the guest room, didn't you?" She blinked. That told me everything. She didn't cry, and I didn't yell. There was no dramatic wine glass toss or soap opera slap. Just 2 people sitting at a table that used to mean something. I stood up, slid her phone back across the table, and said, "Thanks for the steak, by the way." Then I walked out. I didn't slam the door. I didn't burn her clothes. I just walked. Because revenge? Oh, it was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't be loud. It would be unforgettable. I moved out that night. Not in a blaze of fury or a hurricane of shattered plates. No, I packed 3 bags with precision, the way a man does when he knows he's not coming back, but wants to leave just enough behind to keep his shadow in the room. She watched from the stairs, arms crossed, bare feet on the wood like some tragic figure from a B-rated drama. "You're really doing this?" she asked. "I already did," I replied. I didn't wait for a reply. I walked out with my bags, my spine straight, and the last 10 years of my life folded neatly between my socks and shaving kit. I checked into a corporate hotel on the edge of town. Beige walls, quiet hallways, the kind of place where businessmen forget what city they're in. Perfect. The front desk lady didn't ask questions. I gave her my card, signed the form, and made a mental note of the security cameras in the lobby. You learn a lot about people by how they look when no one's supposed to be watching. Room 312. 2 queen beds and a view of the parking lot. I dropped the bags, sat on the edge of the bed, and just stared. The silence in that room felt like freedom. Cold, unfamiliar freedom. But freedom all the same. I didn't cry. That part of me broke months ago. I didn't scream. My throat didn't even twitch. I sat there, still, and let my mind race. The way she moved around me lately like I was furniture. The new perfume that smelled like citrus and arrogance. The dinner that felt like a eulogy. The guest room. The missing cologne bottle. And now? Now I had a name. Mason. The man who sent late-night poetry through text, whose sheets apparently still held the scent of my wife. I didn't need to confront him. Not yet. See, the problem with people like Mason and Tessa is they think passion justifies deception. That as long as it feels exciting, it's not really betrayal. It's just evolution. But I've got news for them. I don't believe in evolution. I believe in consequences. And mine was just beginning. I went to work the next morning like nothing had changed. I nodded at the front desk guy, poured my usual burnt coffee from the communal pot, answered emails, ran projections, made jokes in the break room about fantasy football and the economy. Because I wasn't about to let this thing she started unravel me in public. No, I wanted her to wonder, to feel the itch of uncertainty. Because silence? Silence is loud when it's unexpected. I waited 3 days before she called. "Hey," she said, "you haven't said anything to anyone, have you?" That was her first concern. Not "I miss you." Not "let's talk." Just damage control. I let the pause hang in the air until it hurt. "Not yet." She sighed. "Logan, I'm not the villain here. You're not the victim either." There was silence on her end. Then, I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. "He understands me." That one got a chuckle out of me. "He understands you?" "Tessa, the man sends grocery aisle erotica via text. What part of you is he understanding exactly?" "You're being cruel." "No, Tessa, I'm being clear." And with that, I hung up. I wasn't ready to burn it all yet. That would come later. I needed to collect a few more pieces first. Over the next 2 weeks, I watched everything. I wasn't stalking. I was gathering. There's a difference. One is driven by desperation, the other by purpose. Tessa didn't know I still had access to our shared cloud account. So when she backed up her photos, I saw them. All of them. Dinner with Mason at that little rooftop place she said she hated. A selfie in a hotel mirror, his hand clearly not hers holding the phone. One video clip, just 10 seconds long, of her laughing in a way she hadn't in months. I saved it all. Then I logged into our joint savings account. She hadn't touched it. Not yet. But I moved half of it into a legal escrow under my name. Just in case. I also reached out to a friend of mine from college, Jenna, now a family lawyer. Smart, brutal, and allergic to liars. I didn't tell her everything. Just enough. If someone was planning a slow-motion divorce with style, what would they need to do? Her laugh was short. Someone's wife cheat on him? I smirked. Hypothetically. Hypothetically, I'd say document everything. Keep quiet. And when the time's right, hit where it hurts. I nodded. That's the plan. That Friday, I got an invite. A wedding. Her sister's. Tessa was going, of course. And Mason? Oh, Mason would be there too. Introduced as a good friend. That was my cue. I RSVP'd, yes. Not because I wanted to see her, but because revenge doesn't taste right unless it's served cold and in front of witnesses. The wedding was in a vineyard. Of course it was. Tessa's sister, Madison, always did love pretending she was born into royalty rather than a cul-de-sac in suburban Maryland. Rows of grapevines lined the hills, and white chairs were set up like little soldiers ready to witness a carefully curated love story. Funny how much people pay to lie in front of their families. I arrived in a charcoal suit, pocket square just slightly off-kilter. Not messy, just human enough to look sincere. I walked through the crowd with a slow, easy pace, like I'd been invited, not summoned by fate to pull a pin on this happy grenade. And there she was. Tessa. Looking like a Vogue cover, hair flawless, skin glowing, smile polished to PR perfection. If guilt had a dress code, she'd nailed it. Standing right beside her? Mason. Sunglasses, beard trim, and a handshake that probably felt like sandpaper and self-confidence. They didn't see me at first. I stood by the cocktail table, sipping something called a blush pear spritz, and watching their every move like it was the final act of a play I knew by heart. She laughed at his joke. He touched the small of her back. They looked like a couple on a honeymoon trial run. And then she saw me. Her smile froze mid-sentence. Mason followed her eyes, spotted me, and tensed just enough to let me know he wasn't expecting me. Good. I didn't wave. I didn't nod. I just raised my glass. An hour later, I was at table 8 with some extended relatives and an off-duty DJ. Tessa and Mason were at the family table, of course. But their eyes drifted. Always drifting. Back to me. Like they couldn't decide if I was a ghost or a storm cloud. During the vows, I watched Tessa instead of the bride. Her face was tight, her fingers twitching slightly against the stem of her champagne glass. She wasn't enjoying this. She was waiting. She thought I was going to blow it all up in front of the photographer and her entire bloodline. She didn't know me at all. See, I wasn't there to make a scene. I was there to make a statement. The dinner was soft jazz and expensive chicken, and the wine flowed like the Nile. Somewhere between the second toast and the cake cutting, the mic opened up for spontaneous toasts. Madison's maid of honor gave a tear-soaked speech about destiny. The best man quoted Drake. And then I stood up. Every eye turned. I felt Tessa's gaze before I saw it. Mason stared at his fork like it could dig a tunnel out of the reception. I cleared my throat, raised my glass, and smiled. To love, I began, voice calm, steady, just loud enough to be heard without screaming. To the kind of love that makes you believe you're invincible. The kind that wakes you up at 3 a.m. just to tell someone they're still your favorite person. The kind you fight for. The kind you protect. A pause. Let the words settle like dust in a quiet room. And to the kind of love you don't trade in for novelty. For ego. For momentary warmth in a borrowed bed. I glanced, just briefly, toward Tessa. To the people who understand that loyalty is louder than lust. That commitment isn't a cage, it's a choice you keep making, even on the hard days. The room was dead silent. You could hear the grapes aging. And to the newlyweds, I finished, raising my glass higher. May your love be the kind that makes liars uncomfortable and cowards sweat. I drank. People clapped. Some confused. Some stunned. Tessa's face was pale. Mason was staring into his drink like it held a portal to another universe. I sat down, adjusted my cufflink, and went right back to my salmon. Later that night, As the music thumped and everyone danced like regret didn't exist, I slipped out onto the vineyard's back terrace. Cool air, faint smell of lavender, and a single pair of heels clicking softly behind me. Tessa, you had no right, she hissed. I didn't even turn around. To what? Speak truth. That was a private matter. Between us. You made it public when you made me the fool. She exhaled sharply. You think that toast made you look noble? It made you look bitter. I turned then, slow and deliberate. I wasn't trying to look noble, Tessa. I was reminding you that you don't get to rewrite history without a witness in the room. She crossed her arms. You're not over this, are you? Oh, I'm over you. But what you did, that's a lesson I'm going to teach someone. Who? Mason. I smirked. No. You. She blinked. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out, I said, walking past her. And as I passed, I dropped a small flash drive into her clutch. She didn't notice until she got home. Inside, photos, messages, time-stamped evidence. Enough to let Mason know she hadn't just cheated on me. She'd cheated on him, too. 3 days passed before the house of cards trembled. I know because I was timing it. Like a scientist studying the effects of gravity on hypocrisy. The flash drive I planted in Tessa's purse, neatly labeled Memories, contained 22 GBs, 2 screenshots of messages between her and a third man named Evan, a name she once called our marriage counselor creepy for mentioning, and 1 short video clip. Not explicit, just devastating. In it, she laughs with someone who definitely isn't Mason. Laughs in that deep, real way, the kind of laugh that can't be faked, because it doesn't know it's being recorded. I had gotten that clip from a private investigator. Best $800 I've ever spent. Now, Mason knew he wasn't the only leading man in her little off-Broadway disaster. He wasn't even the understudy. He was a prop. I wasn't in the room when it went down, but I didn't have to be. I got the first clue from a mutual friend who texted me. Bro, did you and Tessa break up again? Mason just rage posted a selfie at the gym with some motivational quote about snakes and betrayal. I smiled and took a slow sip of my coffee. Later that night, I checked Tessa's Instagram. The latest photo, an autumn-filtered snap of her holding a pumpkin latte and looking wistful, had about 35 comments. Most were from girls saying things like, stay strong to hearts, and men are trash. One simply said, maybe look in the mirror first. That one got deleted within the hour. Mason, it turned out, had a flair for the dramatic when wounded. 2 days after the toast, he texted me. Mason, you did this. Me. I didn't take the pictures. You just starred in them. He didn't reply after that. The next time I saw Tessa was in our lawyer's office. She arrived looking composed. Designer bag, tailored blazer, and the same tired confidence of someone who still believes the house hasn't burned down because the smoke hasn't reached the master bedroom yet. We didn't say much. Just nodded as the lawyers shuffled papers and talked in the smooth, practiced tone of people who profit from broken vows. When it came time to discuss the settlement, Tessa finally spoke. I think we can agree this doesn't need to be ugly. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Not the woman I married. Not even the woman who lied. Just a stranger with my last name, holding out a branch that wasn't olive. It was hollow. No, I said quietly. We're past agreeing. Now we just finalize. Her lawyer cleared his throat. Logan, if we're talking assets, we might want to revisit the joint investment accounts. There's considerable equity. They're already divided. I interrupted. Check the timestamp. I moved my half legally before I filed. She's welcome to what's left. Tessa frowned. You moved it? I nodded. Like I moved my trust. Her face faltered. See, I hadn't just planned for revenge. I'd planned for after. While she was chasing Mason and texting Evan, I was meeting with an accountant and quietly restructuring my life like a man preparing for a winter he didn't cause, but had to survive. I left the office that day without looking back. Let her sit there in her blazer and hollow apologies. A week later, I got an email. Subject line, closure. It was from Tessa. No attachment. Just a few paragraphs. I never meant for any of this to spiral. I didn't want to hurt you. I don't even know when I stopped seeing us as a team. I thought maybe if I found something exciting, I'd come back and appreciate what we had. But I just kept drifting. I guess you were right. You always are. And maybe I'm writing this because I want to believe you'll still think I'm human. That I wasn't always like this. That maybe, once, I was worth your trust. I stared at the screen. No emotion. Just acknowledgement. I didn't reply. I archived it. The digital equivalent of nodding politely to a ghost before closing the door. A month after the divorce was finalized, I passed Mason in a grocery store. We locked eyes near the bananas. He looked different, less polished. His beard was gone, replaced with stubble and shadows. He nodded once. I nodded back. Then, after a moment, he muttered, "You were right." I raised an eyebrow. About what? She turns on everyone eventually. I picked up a bunch of bananas. Some people don't love you. They just love being loved. He gave a dry laugh. She said you were cold. Better than being disposable. He didn't argue. Revenge wasn't about destruction. It wasn't about fire or scandal or theatrics. It was about control. Quiet, calculated control. About letting someone walk themselves into a mirror and seeing exactly what they are, without you needing to shatter it for them. And when they finally get there, you're already gone. Weeks drifted by. Time without overt acts was the final strike. I'd started seeing someone new, not for distractions or validation, but because the world felt too heavy without a laugh that didn't come with a question. Her name was Lena, a project manager at a local nonprofit. Compassionate, direct, loved dogs more than people sometimes. Grapefruit mornings and midweek hikes. Effortless and warm, no games, no smoke. When she asked for my favorite movie, I didn't choke. I told her Casablanca, not because it was jonesing for Hollywood romance, but because I'm still human. And when I laughed at her jokes, it wasn't rehearsal, it was real. One evening, over takeout on her balcony, I checked my phone, a text from Mason. "Drinks? I owe you a conversation." I showed it to Lena. She nodded, curious. I agreed. At the bar, Mason looked older. Not just from the divorce, but smaller. We talked quietly, not about Tessa, but about collateral damage. People hurt others, but the scars aren't always on the skin. I told him, the best revenge? Living. He let that sit. I needed to hear that. We left as men who'd been broken and still walked away upright. A month later, over coffee, Tessa called. Said she wanted closure. In person. No lawyers, no phones, just words. I agreed. We met at a quiet cafe. No dramatic backdrop, no tears. Just two people who've lived their versions of hell. She said, plain, I betrayed everything. I chased validation. I was scared of aging, failure, of being invisible. I listened. No judgment. I let her carry her regret until she reached exhaustion. When she paused, I said, I don't hate you. I pity you. You chased everything but yourself. Her shoulders shook, not with sobs, but with realization. Sometimes forgiveness isn't a gift. It's an anchor. I didn't hold it out. I just dropped it quietly and left. Time became my ally. I took care of Lena. Travel, random road trips, camping under stars without plans. I started a side consulting gig. Money wasn't the goal, it was autonomy. I reconnected with old friends. Relearned hobbies, guitar, book club, pottery, though my clay pigs still look like penguins. At my new apartment, I had walls again, but these I chose. Framed prints, soft light, no ghosts. I saw Mason occasionally. Once we high-fived under his newly hung TV. Neither of us said much. We didn't need to. The final chapter wasn't a grand gesture. I invited Tessa's sister Madison to my art show, an exhibit of photos I shot on late-night drives. Empty roads, old diners, neon reflections on rain-soaked glass. Neither Tessa nor Mason attended. Madison came. We talked about life, mistakes, redemption. No drama, just honesty. She asked, "You ever regret what you did?" I looked at the photos. A neon sign flickering, open, even though everything else was dark. Not for a second, I said. Because I did more than revenge. I rebuilt. She smiled softly. She's trying to rebuild too. Maybe she is. Or maybe not. Either way, I'm done showing up to someone else's tragedy. I walked past the gallery doors, lights glowing, music from the street drifting in, and I know, for the first time in years, I'm exactly where I need to be.